What's up? Welcome back to the garage, the shop, the space, the stuff, the things. We're here today because I got a new piece of kit to play with, a new toy to speak, a new pile of goodies. So, what we've got here is, well, a treadmill. A broken treadmill. A free treadmill. That's the best part. So treadmills are great because they are just a pile of parts. They're great for makers. You can get so much good stuff off of a treadmill. So for starters, we got this guy right here. It is a DC motor. In this case, it is a 2 horsepower continuous duty rated 1400 watt motor. And DC motors are great because they're throttleable. So you vary the voltage. You can do you get a variable frequency. Whoa. Okay, just a second here. So this is a future Adam on the editing desk, cropping all this together. And so yeah, past Adam in a little bit in his haste. He got a little tongue-tied, I guess you could say. So I said variable frequency drive a whole lot when I was making the video, when what I meant was a variable speed drive. Since we're dealing with a DC motor, it's a variable speed drive rather than a variable frequency drive. Variable frequency drives drive AC motors. So they have a single voltage, and it varies the frequency that voltage swaps on an AC signal between, AC goes positive, negative, it does that swapping back and forth. And by varying the frequency that it does that swap, you can change the speed of a 3-phase AC motor. Now, on a DC motor, you use a variable speed drive to adjust the voltage. Say, 25 volts at the low end and 120 volts at the top end. By increasing the voltage, you increase the speed on a DC motor. So, yeah. You drive to run them, and you can change the output speed on them. That's why they're so great. That's why treadmills work the way they are. That's why you can adjust them based on how fast you want to run. Also in this one, we have the incline adjustment. So we've got a screw adjuster, an electronic screw adjuster. So inside here, you've got this electric motor that spins a screw, and that adjusts the height. And then up here is our variable frequency drive. So this board right here outputs, your speed control for your motor. And so one of the things that I have been really wanting, especially as of late, is a belt grinder. So belt grinders are great because it's very easy to change grits. You can go anywhere from like a buffing pad, a cotton cloth buffing belt, all the way up to like, I don't know, 40 grit, 80 grit. I'm not sure how coarse belts go. I haven't put a lot of research into them yet, but it's definitely better than, the old bench grinder. So one of the great things about belt grinders is the fact that you have the entire surface of the belt. If you get like a 72-inch belt, you're only putting your heat into that area where you're grinding. The rest of the belt is allowed to cool down. So it reduces the amount of heat that you're putting into your work. That's why like knife makers use them a lot, because you can localize and you can control your heat in whatever it is that you're grinding. And that's essential for like you know, keeping an edge on a blade, stuff that's heat treated and hardened and stuff like that. It's also good for just regular metal workers because it allows you to grind down stuff a lot faster. You can get, you know, you can crank up the speed on the motor and then have a high course belt, and then you can like grind down pieces much quicker. So if you're like, say you're plasma cutting a whole bunch of parts and you want to take all the slag off of that and clean up the edges and chamfer them for welding, you can do that really quickly on a belt grinder. So that is where this is going. This is going to be a belt grinder. And now essentially I just need to, you know, make a frame and then figure out how I want to triangulate all my belts and make the pulleys and put it all together into a usable unit. So yeah, the hard part really was getting a treadmill. And then really that's just, in the difficulty in that is just going to wherever somebody has a treadmill that they're trying to get rid of and then getting it. And then for whatever reason, I've just never had the time to do that. But now I have one. Of course, now that I have one, I want more. Because you can start doing all kinds of cool stuff with, you know, AVE has a great video on how to make a variable frequency air compressor. I like that idea, and I'm thinking about doing that in the, maybe the distant future. I'm going to say the distant future. My near future is pretty full up of stuff. So anyways, let's get to work on this thing. So really it got started with, well, I mean, the very first thing I did was make sure that it works. So, you know, plugged it in and see, it works. And the variable drive works, so you can so yeah, right now it's just got a little itty bitty belt pulley on there. So I'll need to fashion something up. Most people, when they do this, they just weld a piece of pipe on there basically. So, but I want to figure out what size piece of pipe I want to weld on there, and then luckily I have a lathe, so I can weld my pipe on there and then turn it so that it's true, it's round. So a lot of videos I've watched, the people weld the pipe on there, and it's not exactly concentric, and yeah, it's kind of sketch at that point. So you start introducing vibrations into the machine, and then oh yeah, that never ends well. Once you start getting vibrations, that can crack welds and can also damage bearings, and then you have a ticking time bomb on your hands essentially. So I definitely don't want that. As you can see, the treadmill is no longer here. I have completely stripped it down, gutted it. I kept all the metal stuff, threw away most of the plastic stuff, and I'm left with most of the electronic stuff up here. So this is a newer modern treadmill, which means that it has one of these MC 2100 control boards, as opposed to the, like, I guess older MC60s. I think that's what they were. So the old MC60s, you could just have an analog potentiometer and connect that onto the board and control your speed that way. But these newer boards, they're, well, they're more self-contained, whereas the old boards, you had like your transformer and whatnot were off the board, and so these are more contained. They have everything on here, but they relied heavily on a daughter board. So in the case of the treadmill that I got, this is the daughter board for that, which had your inputs for your control panel, and it had an output for your, you know, your speeds and your calories and all that stuff. And then the relied heavily on these like membrane buttons And the big thing that the daughter board does is it provides a pulse width modulated frequency at a specific frequency. See, I was lucky enough to get this little piece of paper hiding inside, and you can see there it was a Gold's Gym Trainer 420, dude. And you can see here it had a, your black ground, red 8 to 12 volt DC tack, but right there your blue pulse width modulated 0 to 5, 0 to 1.5 volt DC with a little 2 asterisks. I'm not sure where the 2 asterisks went to. But yeah, I don't know. But either way, I was able to figure out, and then through some searching around online, I was able to figure out that the daughter board was providing a 20 hertz frequency back to the MC2100, and that is what provided the speed signal to output to the motor. So we connect power, AC in. I got an emergency stop button because I thought that'd be important to have. And then you turn the power switch on, and then here is an inexpensive Amazon PWM frequency generator. And then there is my RPM, and the magnet sits inside the hole there almost perfectly. It's like it was meant to be. So this little doodad here is pretty nice. So once you dial in your frequency, then you can set your percentage of modulation. So when I'm using the belt grinder, I make sure it's plugged in, turn my emergency stop up, activate my emergency stop, turn the power on, and then I hit this on button twice, and then that sends the signal to the board, which causes the motor to spin. And then of course this will be mounted in an area where it actually gets picked up, and then I get my RPM readout right there. And of course I can adjust this, bump that up to 30, and now the motor is up to 1100 RPM or so. A nice thing so they've got versions of these without the on-off button and versions of them with it. The ones with it are nice in that you can just hit off, and then the treadmill controller does a soft shutdown on it, and it's turned off. You can change out your belt, whatever you want to do, and then you just hit the button again. It fires up to the same speed as when you turned it off. And of course, you kill the switch there, shuts down. Hit the emergency stop, shuts down. The other nice thing about this here is turn the power back on, hit your button twice, and it goes back to the same speed as before. You don't have to. I know a lot of the older MC60s and whatnot, you have to turn it all the way to 0 and then back up. But with the PWM generator, it kind of does that itself built in. So that's the electronics figured out. I still got to go in, and so I've got the connections for the RPM meter and the PWM generator. I'm going to tie all those wires in together and clean them up, and I'm going to get rid of the extra wires on this, this HD2 connector, and then straighten everything up, make sure that my earth connections are all nice and organized, and then I'm going to have one on the frame of the grinder itself, so everything will be earthed out nicely, and then that's all going to go into this box here with my meter, my RPM, my emergency stop, and then I'm going to have a couple of I got these guys right here, which are, I don't know, the nice industrial. I like these. These look like these are the lights that you would expect on a machine. That's what they use on like big CNCs and stuff like that. So I really like the look of these. So of course I'm gonna have one of those to tell you that everything's live and activated, and yeah, I just gotta tie it all together. Tomorrow I'm gonna go get some metal for the framework, and I still need to make the wheels. I do have some. I did pick up some of these guys though. They're R8 RS, which is a deep ball. They've got the seal on both sides, so these are generally what most people use on belt grinders. So I got those, and then I'm gonna probably get a rod of 2.5 inch, maybe 3 inch. Yeah, I think probably a 3 inch aluminum, and then I can have a 3 inch idler wheel for the 3 inch wheel for adjusting your tracking and whatnot, and then I can turn down to 2 inches for the platen wheels that go over the top of that. So I think like 6 inches of 3 inch aluminum bar stock, and then I can just do that turn that down on the lathe. Oh shit, I forgot the shit. I had a fairly inexpensive, was a fairly inexpensive, quick change tool post holder on here, and the little fabric cobbled T-bolt that was on there snapped off on me. So I've been using the lantern, the old school lantern tool post, and yeah. I guess either I make a new T-bolt for the quick change, or just use the lantern. I don't know. These days I really need to get like a big BXA, something beefier than, I think that one was designed for like one of those itty bitty little like Harbor Freight mini lathes, the little like 3 inch by 12 inch. I don't know, whatever size those things are. They really seem tiny. But yeah, so the belt grinder's coming along. It's getting there, and yeah, once that's done, then I can start working on other metal projects that I've been putting off, like making Sylvia's desk and improving my welding bench and other things like that. But yeah, it's kind of busy. I had this project rolled in last week. It is this is most of the engine wiring harness for an early 90s EJ22. This is out of a vehicle that was converted to use a Subaru motor, and the wiring was a mess in it. The people that did the conversion, I don't know, either they didn't care a whole lot about what they were doing, or didn't know what they were doing, or a combination of a couple of those things. So, but we're gonna straighten this up. We're gonna clean up the harness a whole lot, actually fix a lot of the, they've done a lot of things like this. Like, this is the mass airflow sensor connector. And I mean, it's not a horrible splice job that they did, but some of it is like, if you look there, you can see where there's there's whiskers poking out, and then, you know, they just didn't clean up the shielding on it, or there's a lot of vinyl. I mean, we pulled off, you know, this is full of vinyl tape that we pulled off of this. There's just so much vinyl tape covering this thing. And then, like, there's just so many, like, why is that poking through like that? Like, it just, you know, a lot of these connections, they were just taped together. They weren't actually soldered properly, or it's, I don't know. But we're gonna fix it. We're gonna make it better. It's gonna be a happy car after this, and yeah, should be good. Yeah, those are the projects I got going on right now, and so yeah, electrical aside, I think I'm gonna split this up into 2 videos. I'm gonna do the, you know, this video that I just did here that has all that covered in it, and then part 2 is gonna be the construction of the framework and putting it all together. So I don't want to make the video too long. Plus, I'm gonna go to work on the harness tomorrow, so it might be next weekend before I get to the framework. And I'd like to, you know, sometimes when I put footage onto a hard drive and it sits there, it gets lost and forgotten about, and then I never end up making the video that I want to make, and then purge time comes around because the hard drive's too full, and then it gets lost forever to the annals of history, and I don't want that to happen. Not with this video. No, I want to keep it. I want it to remember in my old age and show my great-grandkids. Back in my day, these are the things that... Anyways, but I digress. I'm rambling way too much, and I just want to start editing this up so that you guys can see what's going on. So yeah, with that, I will say stay tuned. Once the grinder is assembled and the next video goes up, next video, you'll see an assembled bench grinder. Belt grinder? Bench belt grinder. 2x72 belt grinder. That is officially what it's going to be. I'm still not sure if I'm going to mount it on that framework there. I'm thinking if I can figure out a way to mount it on that pedestal, I'm going to mount it on that pedestal, because that kind of seems to be my little... And then I'm going to build another one to put the vices on. So I'll have the... Yeah, anyways, that's another time. So hopefully you'll stick around and see where I'm going with this. And if this helps you in your endeavors to build one of these, that is even better. That's what I'm hoping to do here, is kind of helping other makers out there with the ability to make something, but not so much cash in their pockets. Because this hasn't... I'll have links to all the stuff I bought off Amazon for you guys, and you'll see that it's really not a whole lot of money that I have into this thing so far. And yeah, stay tuned. And till next time, stay safe, have fun. Peace.